I am Joanna with SERV, the communications officer at SERV. And SERV is an overseas development and volunteering organization. And we've been working for nearly 2 decades now, over 2 decades, feels longer. And I've been with SERV on and off for over a decade. And I am very happy that we're doing our solidarity chat today, this morning, with Claire Kennelly. Is it Kennelly, Claire?
Kennelly.
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 Yes. Kennelly. There's different pronunciations all across the island. So
absolutely, you're dead right. In Cork, everyone says Keneally because there's an A at the end. But my dad was from North Kerry, and it's a very typical name from North Kerry, and it's Kennelly.
Yeah, Kennelly. Got it.
it.
And Solidarity Chats is our vehicle to talk about our work. And we did our first season of Solidarity Chat last year, and we always do it in the lead up to Christmas, so that we can delve deeper in the global goals and talk about all our partners and the work that they do and how SERV supports all our partners. And this season, what we thought would be really incredible is to talk about local heroes here in Ireland and then bridge it with our partners who are heroes in our eyes, So talk about issues that are trans-Atlantic, trans-ocean, trans-Pacific, whatever, across
trans-global.
Yeah. It's worldwide.
Yeah.
Especially the topic that you're here to talk about, Claire. Claire is the managing director of Inclusive World Training, among so many other things. You're an educator, you're a trainer, you're also a broadcast media maker, because you had a podcast called Disruptability.
That's right.
You should bring that back. Please bring it back. It's important.
I did, and I loved doing it, and it's just time. It's time.
Yes.
Yeah, but I like it's still there. It's there. It's just paused. That's all.
It'll come back. So stay tuned, everyone.
Thank you.
Claire is always encouraging leadership to reimagine inclusivity. And inclusion without people with disability is a no-no. What is that? That's exclusion. Sorry. Exactly. Right. And I think most of your work, almost all of your work every day consistently is focused on language and helping all of us train our eyes and our ears and all our senses to understand what inclusion in the workspace looks like, what inclusion in the community looks like, what inclusion should technically look like around the world.
Look like and feel like. I think that's the other thing. What does it feel like? When you do you feel included when you go into an organization? Or I think it's what it looks like and what it feels like.
Yes. Is there anything else you want to add about your own work, Claire, that I missed?
Oh, listen, you're really comprehensive. Well done on your research. Thank you. That's a lot. I actually feel very complimented by everything you've said. And I suppose inclusion begins with I, and that's what I always say to people. It's about what can you do to ensure that everyone you meet, whether it's in your workplace or during your leisure activities or in your day-to-day life, that you're including people and not excluding people. And that's why I say it's not just about what it looks like, it's about how it feels when you go into a coffee shop, or when you go into an educational organization, or when you go into participate in some leisure activities, that you're included, that someone has thought about your needs, whatever they might be. So that's everything that I do. And I'm also working with the Cork Education and Training Board. They've set up an active inclusion team, and I'm part of that team now as well. So I'm sort of in the public sector now, but also in the private sector, still training and consulting and helping all kinds of organizations do something around diversity, equality and inclusion. And it's a thriving space. Everyone is talking about it, and everyone wants to do the right thing. I think that's the key, Joanna. Everyone wants to get it right, but they're not sure where to start.
Yes. So actually, that's pretty much my first question, talking about where do we start? So what can able-bodied people do better when we're talking about people with disabilities, when we're talking about it with each other, especially because the work we are doing with our partners in India, it's all about ending stigma. Yeah. And would it be accurate to say that there is stigma here as well in this part of the world? And if so, even if not, or maybe less in comparison, there'd be other challenges. Therefore, what can able-bodied people do better?
Okay, great question. And I'm not even going to just address that it's what can able-bodied people do better? What can all people do better? Because according to the World Health Organization, 20% of us have 20% of the world's population, like nearly 1 billion people, have some kind of disability, all right? And that might be a temporary disability or a permanent disability. So it's all people in our language, because most disability is hidden anyway. And like, I'm a disabled person, I have vision loss, but it doesn't mean just when because I have vision loss that I know how to speak about all types of disability. I had to learn how to use the correct language, so I suppose I'm personally and professionally very committed to the area, because I am a person with a disability, and I can see how quickly you can be left behind in society. So I think in general, what people can do, there's so much. Where do you start? You said earlier that I talk a lot around language. So let me just start with some of the language. We don't use the word handicapped anymore, all right? We use the word disabled people or people with disabilities. And the reason why we don't use the word handicapped anymore is because it comes from a time before there was any like social network there for people with disabilities. People with disabilities found it hard to get work, and they were begging, and they were standing outside of churches with their cap in their hand. So that's the history of that word. And I think when people understand where a word comes from, they won't use it anymore, right? So language like that is defunct. Also using terms like, oh, she suffers from her nerves, right? Or, they're victims of, like using this really tragic language around disability when, they have a particular condition that might be a particular medical condition, and you can just say, well, she has or he has, multiple sclerosis, for example. Not suffering from, but has, just name the condition of what it is. And another one, I suppose, in terms of like use the word seizures instead of, they have fits or attacks, or they have spells of something, using the proper terminology puts a lot more dignity around that. But that's only one area of it. When you're just saying, what can people do in general around disability inclusion? I suppose look around your space, right? Do you have stairs in your organization? Are they marked with yellow strips so that somebody who's vision impaired can ensure they're not going to miss a step? And you know what I always say, Joanna, what's essential for one person is beneficial for all people, right? And what I mean by that is, so I'm vision impaired, and when I'm going up the stairs, it's really helpful if I have that yellow strip. And this is really cheap. You can buy it in any hardware store, and you put the yellow strip and it determines, each step. But if someone comes in and they're tired, or maybe they're a bit distracted, or, maybe they were out last night and, had a few too many, like, it also is very beneficial to all of those people in your organization to have the steps laid out properly. And when you're doing things like presentations and your PowerPoints, that you turn on your captions, or whatever you're using, that you're thinking about everybody. And you might say, but I don't think there's anybody with hearing loss in my classroom. But you don't know that. If you have 20, 30 people in your classroom, whether they're old or young, there might be somebody who has hearing loss, and captions can be really, really helpful, not just for somebody with hearing loss, but maybe for somebody who has English as a second language. So when we're talking among ourselves, and you asked, like, is there still stigma in this part of the world? Is there still, you know, stereotyping or unconscious bias around disability? Yeah, there is. There is. It's going to take us a long time to change the history of a whole group of people. But is the culture changing? I think it is, and I think it's changing really rapidly. And it's changing rapidly because we've had like loads of legislation. The experience of my generation and people older than me was it was quite exclusive, right? If you had a disability, you weren't in the mainstream classroom back in the 70s and 80s. You were probably in, you know, a special school. And if you were blind, you were probably, even if you were from the countryside, you were probably in Dublin, because there was maybe only one school for the deaf or the blind in Ireland. And it was like you were sent away at a very early age, and you lost your support network and your family and your home. Like there's a huge history here of, it's quite a tragic history actually, of people with disabilities. But younger people, the millennials, the Gen Zs, are coming out of education and they know what inclusion looks like, right? Because they are sitting in classrooms with autistic people, with blind people, with deaf people, with, you know, all kinds of disabilities, with chronic and long-term illnesses. They're all in school together and they can see that their needs are being met. And then they go into the workplace and they're like, where's the diversity? You know, what's happened to John? I was in school with John and now he's not in employment and he got a bloody great leaving cert. What the hell has happened to him? Do you know? And I think there's going to be a bit of a tsunami happening with that generation saying they want inclusion, they want it now, and they know what it looks like. They know what it looks like, and they know what it feels like, Joanna.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the difference. My generation didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was excluded. We didn't see it every day.
Very important what you said, that everybody is ready for inclusion and everybody wants inclusion. And you know, when it comes to the work SORV does, we work with disabled people through an organization in India called the Association for People with Disability. They're in Bangalore in India. Most of their work is about ending the stigma around disability. Their work also is hugely about outreach, going into rural areas and working with people. So they have outreach centers as well. They're based within the city and they have a huge center, and there's a lot of different facilities for people with disabilities of all ages. And SORV volunteers have been going there and spending a month there volunteering with them. And these would be Irish SORV volunteers going from here who are in training in either, you know, occupational therapy or any physical therapy, and they're studying about it, and they go there to get grassroots experience, right? And what is really incredible about APD is that it was started by a lady who herself was a wheelchair user because she had polio. And, you know, she came from a privileged background, and her parents did not look at it as a taboo or stigmatize it. And they did everything within their power to ensure that she could realize all of her potential and live an incredible life. And then she started APD. At the moment, one of the things that SORV has been doing for the last 2 years, it is a 3-year program, is about sensitizing people about what disability looks like, feels like. And it's all about education, and it is predominantly a program delivered to school-aged children in lower secondary school. And I actually have a picture of it. If I'd love to show it to you. Oh, this is our little slide. You know, this is them. Look, you see that there? Yeah. The young boy, he is there's a program where he's experiencing what it feels like to be not have vision and to walk around with a stick. And then this is a picture of this, you know, of the schoolgirl in the wheelchair, to understand what it feels like to be in a wheelchair and how to be able to navigate everyday thing. And they're doing this program on a regular basis with young people, and it's really remarkable to see the impact of it, learn about the impact of it, to help young people understand right from the get-go what an inclusive world looks like.
Yeah.
And it really piggybacks on what you said. We're all ready for inclusion, and everyone is working in different spaces to make that possible for our future. Isn't that, and I think that's remarkable. Another thing I really wanted to ask you is that who do you think in Cork is a great example of diversity, equality, inclusion of efforts?
God, there are so many. I think there are so many organizations that want to do it right. Okay, like yourselves. Okay, so and we're having the conversation, and people are talking more about diversity, equality, and inclusion. I hate naming out any particular ones because I'm gonna forget, or I'm gonna not mention somebody, and they're gonna go, Claire, you never mentioned us. But just in terms, I suppose, of the educational institutions, my own organization that I've recently joined, the Cork Education Training Board, has an active inclusion team. All right. And they are looking at, in terms of active inclusion, we're looking at all the protected characteristics, or what I call the intersectionalities, right? And in Ireland, there are 9. So we're ensuring that, as well as disability, neurodiversity, and mental health, all of that is included. It's also looking at gender, age, religion, race, sexual orientation, and family status, marital status, and of course we have our own Indigenous cultural community called the Traveller community as well. So we're ensuring that all of those are included in society, in Irish society, and especially in Cork, because it's the Cork Education Training Board. Also, I know UCC and MTU, our 2 universities in Cork City, do a lot of work to ensure that their students with disabilities are getting on work placements and internships with inclusive employers, of whom there are a lot in Cork, all right? And so during their studies, they're on internships, and then they have graduate programs as well to go into work placements, all right? So there are maybe other pathways of getting into the workplace. There's an organization in Dublin, which I think should be all over the country. They're called AHEAD, and they have a WAM program, which is called Willing Able Mentoring. It's a brilliant program, and they organize webinars. They call them WAMinars, right, for all organizations, so anybody can attend them, and you learn so much from attending them. But a WAM program is, any organization could join WAM, and lots of big organizations like the banking sector, the ESB, you know, the pharmaceutical sector, there, a lot of them have all joined the WAM program, and what they are willing able mentoring. So AHEAD will match the graduate with the disability with an organization who knows that they're going to be receiving somebody with a disability, but they don't know who. They just want someone who can do the job, right? And then there's great support to ensure that the job is supported, the graduate is supported, but also the employer is supported, because there can be a big learning curve, especially if you know, there's particular software or hardware that has to be bought, you know, and it has to sync in with whatever the Indigenous one is in the organization. So yeah, there's just so many good organizations doing great work, and what I'd like to see is that we're working together. Like, if I learn something and it's best international practice, that I share that, you know, and train the trainer and the next person, and we need that multiplier effect, Joanna.
The picture that you see this side of, his name is Irshad, and we got his story from APD a few months ago, and oh my goodness, you know, he's a modern man. He's incredible. He talks a lot about his dreams and his aspirations. You know, he's a wheelchair user, as you can see. His father works overseas, and his mum is his, you know, caregiver, and she helps him to get ready. And his house it's a 2-leveled house, but there is a little ramp for there is a ramp for Irshad to move around, but he does, you know, crawl around in his house. He loves to cook, and he really hopes that someday he's going to have a house which is accessible, of course, so he can move around without any hindrances, but also because he wants to be able to cook in an accessible kitchen, and he enjoys cooking so much that he watches, YouTube videos and experiments cooking, and he wants to share what he's cooked with his family, and he helps in the kitchen with helps his mom in the kitchen as well. And he used to use the facilities at APD and get training, gain skills and just realize his potential, and what's wonderful. And also I saw this on your Twitter feed, and there was a photograph of a slide that says employ the people you serve. So APD hired him, so he works with APD now, and he says, I feel like my life has come a full circle, but it's always just beginning. And I thought that was so wonderful, because so many of us want that for ourselves. We want to be we have aspirations. Different people inspire us. He says that his parents inspire him because they go above and beyond to make their dreams possible. And I could relate with that. I'm sure you can relate with that. And when we're all aspiring for the same thing, and then when there's charity like APD, and when there are services like the ETB doing what they can do to be able to help everyone in our community, in our society, feel like we've got the chance and we've only need a helping hand to go forward, I think that is the biggest takeaway for me from Irshad's story. And I could stay here till the cows come home to talk about what APD do, but I think Irshad's story really encapsulates everything, because he has the confidence to say everything, and it's not. And yes, there's privilege because he's a man and all of that, but at the same time, he's vulnerable, and he has simple desires. He even said that he doesn't have, he has very few friends. He doesn't spend too much time socializing because he wants to do better. He wants to be a TED Talk speaker. And so he listens to people who motivate him, and he spends a lot of time researching things to be better, to do better. And I think we all can relate with that. That's so, yeah, I think if people want to know more about all of this, they should definitely go onto the Inclusive Cork website and your Twitter page, and come to the serve.ie website as well. So yeah, it comes down to our call to action. Claire, what do you want people to do after they listen to this?
Well, I suppose just going back to your story about Irshad, it's very clear he can do everything if he's in an accessible environment, right? Like of course he can cook. You just need to have, the countertops and the cookers and everything at wheelchair level. I'm a particular advocate around disability and employment, Joanna. It's the one thing I think disabled people in Ireland, we are rocking it in the education sector, all right? We are coming out with degrees out the wazoo. But there is a massive disability employment gap. We are coming out, we are very successful in third level, but it's not translating into jobs. So my call to action is to employers to look at the jobs that you have and really think about hiring someone with a disability, because we are a very diverse population. We're a fantastic problem-solving population, because every day we have to resolve problems and find solutions of how to get from A to B, or how to manage our lives. And a lot of people, especially with remote working and hybrid working, a lot of people need the opportunities now. And so that's my call, is to employers to get on board with a lot of the programs, whether it's with the CETB or UCC or MTU or AHEAD. There are pathways, and you're going to get so much support, employers, that is out there to hire people with disabilities and close that employment gap. and close the employment gap, because there is dignity and around working, and also you know, there's more security when you're able to earn your own living rather than being reliant on the social welfare state. So
Yes, yes. The serve call to action for today is Irshad's appeal. You know, he said that I want to be able to do everything. I can do everything. I only need a helping hand. And with charities like APD and Serve, I am able to do that. And so our appeal, our call to action is for everyone to think about donating to Serve at Christmas time. Donate to Serve because it's a gift that will keep on giving, and it'll support our work. And when we say our work, it means our work that we do with our partners like APD, who support more and more and more people like Irshad. There are so many. And so yeah, that's what I want to say. Donate to Serve this Christmas.
okay. Great.
Yay. Thank you so much, Claire, for making the time. I'm really sorry about our glitch, but yeah, everyone will get to hear this post-live conversation.
Absolutely, no problem, and my pleasure,
Yes.
Joanna. Lovely talking to you this morning.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Okay.